Space is a metaphor I'm running out of room with really, really quickly. This week, we are going to be talking about the Strange New Worlds trailers that were released, the characters and the general episode. To help us out with that, all right, now let me introduce a man who is convinced that this podcast is SETI Alpha 5, Chris Noonien-Singh.
What's up, man?
What's happening?
Yeah, so I thought we'd just do a episode on all the trailers that have been dropped since we last released an episode. They came out with a bunch of, 30-second teasers for all the new officers on deck and another trailer for the show itself, which I feel like this will probably be like the last of this kind of stuff that we get before the show hits in May.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say there's like 3 weeks left.
Yeah, we may get one or two other things, but I felt like this is the last major thing we're going to get, most likely. So
yeah, they're going to wrap up Picard, and then the day the last Picard comes out, the first Strange New Worlds comes out.
Yeah.
So we're in a virtual golden age of Star Trek right now. There is more Star Trek content than I know what to do with these days.
Right?
Yeah, there is just a ton of it out there.
I'm here for it, though.
Yeah, you know what? For the most part, I'm enjoying it. When I remember to watch the Lower Decks, I love it, especially since, and I had forgotten about this, Vilmur comes from my hometown, Modesto, California.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd forgotten all about that. All right, so we are going to go as near as we can tell in the order these were released. So what we'll do, I guess we'll cut away real quick while we watch them and then come back and comment on what we've seen, right?
Yeah, man, I think in this playlist I have here, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes, I have a playlist of all these trailers that came out. So the first one on deck for this playlist is Uhura, which is weird because I didn't really expect to see Uhura on the crew. Because if you go back to the cage, like some of these early TOS characters are nowhere to be found. So it was kind of weird to see her on deck here.
Okay, so obviously the cage was a very white male episode. And I believe this is, if I were to guess, I haven't heard anything that says this yet, but what I'm thinking this probably is Pike's second 5-year mission. The first one was, when he was sent away during the Klingon War. And then this one will be like a second 5-year mission, so we can kind of bring in some characters, and we can cast it like a modern show, so there are some non-white, possibly non-male characters in here to diversify the crew of the Enterprise a little bit.
No, I don't have an issue with that. It just struck me as weird seeing, at least in here she's Cadet Uhura, so it's not like, she's a full
lieutenant yet.
Yeah, like she was in TOS. Yeah, and I think it still remains to be seen whether this show is going to take up the story from when Discovery left time, or if we're going to see something different. So it will be definitely interesting to see where exactly on this timeline Strange New World starts. I got a feeling it's going to be after Discovery left, therefore I'm with you on the second 5-year mission theory. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, again, we're having to speculate quite a bit here, but that seems to be where they're fitting in, is like post the cage, post Discovery. We already have a sense of who some of these characters are, but I think it's interesting that they are getting some Kirk era characters and putting them in here, especially since they're getting, like, in a lot of cases, background players.
Yeah, and we'll talk about some of those other characters shortly, but just from this short trailer, I do like her characterization so far. It was kind of funny when, Pike was like, oh, she speaks 12 languages, and Uhura was like, well, no, not really, it's 32 or 37 or whatever she says, but...
that's kind of a cool line, too, when they're like, hey, the universal translator's not kicking in, do something. She's like, that's not how linguistics work.
Yeah, and we get some nice visuals of the show itself, which everything I've seen so far, I thought some of the visuals in Discovery were pretty good, but just from some of the trailers that I've seen of this show so far, it's going to be a visually stunning show, it looks like.
Yeah, it's really going to be quite cinematic, it would appear. One of the things I did notice, and I think we'll see more of it as we go here with these, The bridge for the Enterprise is a different bridge than they used in Discovery. And it's a little bit smaller, and the elevators are a little more forward, it looks like, as well.
I think some of that is because, we talked about, I'm going forward in time here, but we talked about in a future episode how they kind of course corrected on a bunch of stuff as Discovery Season 2 went along. And I just know that because I started editing that episode today. But we did touch on that in an episode in the future here, whether that's this one or another one. This seems like a course correction because I remember at the time, or at least, when I first started looking into Discovery, people were saying, yo, man, what's up with the bridge of the Enterprise? That thing is huge compared to like what we see on TOS. And as I've said before, like, I'm not a huge stickler for details like that. I mean, the bridge looks like the bridge of the Enterprise. Yes, the scale is a little bit off because, they have lots of money now to do all these sets. So it's only fair. But I think you're right. The bridge does look a little smaller. And I think that might be because this is another one of those course corrections from Discovery.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I have to go into, of course, real quick is I believe we saw 2 variations of the uniform and 2 variations of the uniform pin. So the cadet pin is going to be different.
We actually saw 3 variations of it.
Oh, did we? Okay, I missed one somewhere in there.
Yeah, so the first one is the black collar with, it didn't appear that the repeating symbol was in the pattern anywhere. So the black collar with the solid colored shirt. And then we saw that similar uniform top that we saw in the Kirk reveal, where it was like the gold collar, or for command, gold collar. And then on the shoulders, it had the repeating symbols there. And then we saw another one. It looked like Uhura, and I want to say number 1 wears this uniform too, and it may just be a female variation of it, but with the black stripes on the sides.
Yeah, where it looks more like a tunic, almost dress-shaped tunic over leggings.
Yes, something like that. So yeah, I caught 3 different uniforms.
Okay, yeah. There's a lot to kind of pay attention to as we go through this, and all the edits are really fast, so I'm hoping we pick up on everything we can.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. I can tell already that Uhura is going to get quite a bit more characterization in this show than she did in the original series.
Yeah.
And I don't know how forward a character is, but I'm going to have to assume this is going to be an ensemble show, more like The Next Generation, rather than a lead and 2 backup characters like the original series.
Which I don't mind, because I did enjoy that about The Next Generation over the original series.
Yeah. All right. So what is the next one we have here?
The next one is, my future relative, La'an. I think that's how you pronounce her name.
I believe so, yes.
So I have to think that she bears some relation to Khan. The thing that I don't understand is why.
So they have flat out stated that she has some relationship to Khan, like genetic relationship to Khan.
Yeah, I get that, but like, I guess my question is why? Why is that a thread we're pulling on in Strange New Worlds here?
They're going to have to do something really good with it, because so far, while the character looks interesting, I hate the idea of a Khan relative just running around.
The Enterprise. I mean, it's no problem for me if like she's out there in the wide world or the wide universe, whatever. But the fact that she's assigned to, it looks like she's a bridge officer of the Enterprise.
It looks to me like she's the security officer.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It looks like she's the security officer. Yeah, it seems real weird, man. I don't, but you're right. The character, just from the little bits we've seen, looks pretty interesting. But you're right. Also, they're going to have to really explain why a relative of Khan is sitting on the bridge of the Enterprise to make it make sense.
Yeah, they're gonna have to swing a heavy weight on this one to get me on board, But I am coming in open-minded, so I'm not going to resist it just for the sake of resisting it.
No, you're right, because like I've said in the past, so far, Paramount has the same trust I put into Marvel. So whenever I see something that is really annoying to me, I just got to step back and say Discovery is, not Discovery. Paramount has a good track record so far. Let's see what they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, first off, the body language between Spock and Lan looks very intimate almost.
I picked up on that too, man.
I don't know what they're hinting at or what, but there was something. Well, it must have been quite visible if we both got it from that quick quarter of a second clip.
Well, something else too is something that we'll talk about in the trailer for the show, the newest trailer from the show, about Spock being kind of intimate with other people too. So yeah, I caught that myself. There definitely seemed to be some tension, sexual or otherwise, apparent in there.
And then, so there were a couple sentences she said. One, like, I'm the only one left or something to that effect. I'm the only one that survived. So apparently she's going to have some kind of traumatic or tragic backstory. And then at the very end, she says something like, I can't keep running. It's just who I am.
Yeah, that kind of hints to me that this is basically Khan, I can't even say 2.0, like Khan 0.5. Obviously, none of this stuff is in like a huge amount of context, so we have no idea what it means. But just from the way that 31 seconds went, I'm with you. It seems like they're setting her up to be some kind of adversary of some sort, maybe.
Perhaps, yeah. Okay, so I didn't really, outside of those few things right there, I didn't get a lot more than that from that particular one.
Nah, me either. So next on the list is a name familiar if you've listened to our Star Trek Is episode, or I guess the Cage episode too, Ortegas. So the first thing that strikes me about this character is that the characterization, at least a little bit, obviously in the What Star Trek Is document, it's Jose Ortegas. You know, it basically says he tries and fails mostly to keep up the historical repute of Latin men as lovers. I mean, obviously, this character is not a Latin male, but just right off the bat, you know, Pike is telling her, get us close. And she's like, which base?
That was a great little piece there. Cause, you know, and then ending with blind date, you know, just, whoa, back up. That's a great piece. Character look. Okay. So I'm going to say this is going to be the fun character on the bridge.
Yeah. The one with all the witty one-liners and stuff.
Yeah. I think this is going to be like the snarky, fun character to watch. I do find it interesting that I have to assume it was intentional that her last name is Ortegas.
Yeah.
I'm not going to believe that it's not.
Yeah, because in the Cage, it was Jose Tyler. So in the pilot, they kept the original character's first name. And in this one, they kept the original character's last name, which I'm okay with. Because Jose Tyler in the Cage was a Irish white guy.
Yep. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Much like Vincenzo Fox, former president of Mexico. One of the things I noticed, of course, is that somebody attacks the bridge in this show at some point. And I think this is the second clue we've gotten to that, because Ortegas was firing a phaser over the nav console, it looked like.
Yeah.
We're going to be getting some, hand-to-hand action on the bridge, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
I do have to reference, going back to Discovery, when Captain Pike was telling everybody on the bridge what to do, and he looks at Detmer and says, fly good. In this one, you know, he just goes to he looks like he goes to his piloting people, and he's just like, look, you're the best. I'm going to need you to prove it now. You know, he's just like.
Yeah, I did like that line. Yeah.
You know, it kind of looks like he trusts his pilots, and he's going to work with them that way, you know?
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing. Like he seems to put a lot of trust in his bridge officers, which, you know, you would expect a good captain to do if they're the folks on the bridge.
His bridge is very casual too, I've noticed.
Yeah, I mean, he was even that way on Discovery too, though. So it's not a surprise that he runs his own ship a little informal, and in fact, even a little bit more informally, because this is his normal crew.
Right. Yeah, let's go ahead and jump to Hemmer. There's a lot more in that one to comment on, I think. So he is a Anar, which is a subvariety or a subspecies of the Andorians, and they are blind by nature, but have obviously greater senses that make up for that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I hadn't run across the subset of those guys, so when he said he was an Anar or something like that, I was like, wait a second, that's an Andorian we're looking at right now. What's going on?
Mm-hmm. I guess I didn't see the episode. They were introduced on Enterprise, apparently. So a couple things I want to comment on. Uhura has yet another uniform on. Also, the guy operating the transporter is Lieutenant Kyle, who is a Jim Kirk era character, who shows up later as the first officer of the Reliant. But he's wearing yet another variety of uniform, but I'm wondering if his is supposed to be that, remember that jumpsuit that every background character wore on the original series?
Yeah, you think it might be something like that?
I think this is the updated, nicer version, maybe.
Oh, and if I can comment on Uhura's uniform, that thing actually looks pretty good. Like, I wouldn't be upset if everybody wore that.
No, it's a nice looking uniform. And since we're on it, I'm going to go ahead and say, in the spacesuits do resemble the original, EVA suits worn on TOS as well.
They do share a resemblance to the stuff they used on Discovery, which is not surprising. I think there's a lot more background stuff to focus on this one rather than the character, because he seems to be a newly introduced guy, so I don't really have any background stuff for him per se. But yeah, one of the things he's obviously going to be one of like a chief engineer or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And can I point out, he's a blind chief engineer. Does that sound familiar? Geordie LaForge, anybody? I did like the Daredevil catching a carrot scene. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
After he makes the quick quip about how his sensors aren't equal, they're better or superior. That looked pretty cool. I am interested in learning more about this character. The actor playing him is blind, or at least legally blind. I can't remember which it was.
Yeah, I noticed that because at first, like, when I saw the actor in the interview, I was like, man, there's something going on with his eyes. But then I realized, oh, wait, he's actually blind. So that's probably the reason for that.
So I'm interested in learning more about this character. The line that his purpose in life is to fix that which is broken. That's a really loaded setup, I think, for a character, too.
Yeah, especially when we've already seen Noonien-Singh talk about, her issues, at least on the surface. So it's kind of got me thinking maybe there's some connection there.
Yeah, no, I can see that. So yeah, I'm definitely interested. So this is, out of all of them so far, this character is the one we know nothing about that interests me the most so far. Just because I'm curious about how this character will work out and what they're going to do with him. Because it seems like they're setting him up for more than just being the engineer.
It could be. I don't know, man.
Yeah. Again, hey, we're spitballing here.
Yeah, because he's the only one on the list that has no prior anything. So anything that we talk about with him is all shots in the dark.
Mm-hmm. Hell, he could die in the second episode. We have no idea.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. They could Tasha Yar him real quick, like.
Oh, thankfully they did. I did not like Yar as a character.
Yeah. It's, I have to say, though, her death is one of the first things that hooked me on Next Gen, because I was not sold until then. But when it was like, oh my God, they're killing people on here. Not just red shirts, but like main cast members.
Yeah, I think that's where it picked up for me too, because she was just not great.
Probably not her fault. There was that first season, that writing was rough. That was like sandpaper, toilet paper rough. I mean, that was, the whole season was like bad. It felt like every episode you were in a different universe watching a different set of characters that just looked like the last guys.
Well, it usually takes a handful of episodes for a show to hit its stride.
It does. All right, let's move on to Dr. Mbenga.
So, yeah, he is a familiar character from TOS.
Yes.
The only thing that I thought was really weird is in this clip, he describes himself as the chief medical officer of the Enterprise, but Did he get a demotion when McCoy came on board the Enterprise?
That would be the question, wouldn't it? And actually, it'd be before then, because if you go back to Where No Man Has Gone Before, Dr. Piper was the chief medical officer of the Enterprise. Which they probably won't reference because, again, it was a pilot episode, and while I love that episode, it is a little off from the rest of the series. Dr. Mbenga showed up in, 2 episodes of TOS, and was actually a primary character in one of Gene Roddenberry's first pitch spinoffs of Star Trek, which was going to be called Hope Ship, and it was going to be about a medical ship, and Dr. Mbenga was going to be the doctor on the ship, and his brother was going to be captain.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, well, it didn't go anywhere. It was just one of the... Like, Roddenberry was pitching about 600 series a day towards the end of seasons 2 and 3, you know. Of course, they all sounded just like Star Trek, but, whatever.
Yeah. It also looks like he may have been, originally supposed to be a nurse.
Really?
Yeah, but then, Roddenberry was like, there's no such nurse existing on our spaceship. If we need a nurse, we'll use our semi-regular nurse chapel.
Oh, okay.
So apparently, it seems like he may have been slated to be there more than just 2 episodes.
That's interesting. Now, if I remember right, his portrayal on the original series, he had more of a transatlantic, possibly English-sounding accent, and this one sounds a little more like African. I want to know what you cure with sea urchin paste on the forehead. I have to say that sounds really interesting to me. What could that be all about?
I didn't necessarily have an issue with him doing stuff like that because it shows a connection to old world medicine meets new world medicine, future medicine, if you will, just showing that we don't necessarily always need all this technology to help somebody. So I didn't mind that little thing that they showed there.
I did like them ending on the I'm a physician, there has to be another way, which I think, spotlights Bones a little bit. I'm a doctor, not a shuttle conductor. But that also kind of flashes back to the sea urchin thing. There's got to be another way. So, maybe if the tricorder and the hypospray aren't cutting it, maybe this poultice made out of these herbs and this thing that I found on this planet, maybe this will work.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily have a problem with them doing that. Obviously, if they make a joke out of remedies like that, then, that's kind of a cheap shot. But I don't know. We'll have to see where it goes, but as of right this second, I don't have an issue with it.
No, I'm good with it so far. So far, I'm good with everything we've seen. Okay, cow dog. I'm good with everything but you barking right now. For anybody listening at home, yes, my dog is barking again. And you know what? We're just going to have to learn to live with it. We're stuck on the spaceship. There's nowhere for her to go. Okay? It's just the way it is. Anything else about Mbenga before we move on?
No, I mean, the only thing that comes to mind is the fact that he described himself as the chief medical officer of the Enterprise, which makes me wonder, how he got a demotion, I guess. I don't know how the medical field works on the Enterprise, but it would seem like going to not being the chief medical officer once Bones gets on board is a demotion.
Well, you know what, Chris? You could be pointing out a setup for a story hook that I hadn't even considered.
Oh, you think maybe he was initially the chief medical officer and then maybe something happened to cause him to not be?
Yeah, that's a possibility. He could have got...
Well, maybe... maybe some of those home remedies...
ain't all they cracked up to be.
Again, though, I hope they don't go that route. If he gets in trouble for something, make it be for something different.
Well, yeah, because, look at all the... If he is a doctor and, sticking by the Hippocratic Oath, just spitball here for a second. Think of all the prime directive violations a doctor who is 100% committed to healing would set himself up for.
Yeah.
Just that piece alone, you could have him do something that completely changes the natural evolution of the planet and get demoted for it. And that's just guessing.
No, you're right. Hopefully they deal with it in some fashion. Yeah, because like I said, once McCoy comes on board, McCoy starts being the chief medical officer. So we'll see how that plays out.
I don't remember the original Enterprise being a flagship for the Federation. I believe that was the Enterprise D's classification. Now, just because they hadn't said it before, obviously doesn't mean it can't be. You can't go ahead and throw that in there. You totally can.
Well, the flagship of the fleet, at least in Navy terms, I believe, I might be wrong on this, is whatever ship the admiral's on. That ship can change. Kind of like Air Force One. You know, Air Force One is whatever aircraft the president's on. Obviously, we have a airplane that has that across the side, but really it's any fixed wing aircraft that the president's on. So I think it works that way in the Navy, where the flagship of the fleet is the one that the admiral's on. I could be wrong about that. I just got done reading a book about the USS Indianapolis shipwreck, and I feel like that was in there somewhere.
Yeah, that could have very well been.
All right. Well, I think staying in the medical field here, let's talk about Nurse Chapel. So I'm not going to lie here. This is another situation where it looks like Spock and a female character have some kind of intimacy more than what we are used to seeing from Spock.
Well, so if you go back and you watch the original series, Christine Chapel was in love with Spock. Not quite unrequited. Like, she definitely let it be known. You know, what we don't know is what their past was, because, you know, it's possible for a fling or something, and one person still has feelings, and the other one's like, hey, but I'm married to this chick back on Vulcan. I'm not saying who's who here. I'm not pointing fingers. And then on top of that, I'm kind of slowly rewatching the original series right now. Multiple episodes where Uhura flirts with Spock.
Yeah, this could be you know what? This could be a situation where Spock has let his guard down a bunch when he was younger, and realized before the time of Kirk and co. to lock that up.
Yeah, it could very well be.
Something else that is weird. Obviously, Nurse Chapel was played by Majel Barrett back in the day, but so was Number One.
Yes.
So it's real weird seeing two characters played by the same woman being represented here. I mean, it's cool for sure.
You know what I was thinking would be cool, and this is going to carry us off of Chapel for a second. They should have Rebecca Romaine voice the computer, and they should just, like, in the in-universe, Una Chin Riley is the voice of the computers. And it would hold up with the original series and the Next Generation. I'm just saying that, you know, if you had that as the in-universe reason, why did it sound like her? Because it was her. Then you've got it conquered. You're just like, yep, got it all wrapped up.
Well, let's make sure Paramount knows that.
I do want to say, last night I watched an episode of Star Trek that was quote-unquote Christine Chapel based. And in this 31 seconds, she showed more fire and more personality than she did in that entire episode last night.
Yeah, which I always thought was weird because I so dug her character in The Cage. But, you know, I think we said this during the episode, or at least I did, that maybe the reason why she stood out so much to me was because most everybody else was kind of overacting and she was not really. So I could see that.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I was watching this episode last night and I was thinking about this clip and I'm just like, God, there's so much more character in that 31 seconds than they gave her in the A story where she's the second lead character. And all we get is that she's simpering over her old love and fiance. I guess that's all that women could do in the 60s though, right? Interested in seeing what they do with this character, because not only does she appear to, like, take her job serious and slap the hell out of Spock, looks like she's pretty handy in a fight too.
Yeah. Well, looks like they all are pretty much. And, you know, speaking of Majel Barrett's other character, let's talk about Number One, Una. So what I like about her so far is she definitely reminds me of Majel Barrett a little bit in The Cage, especially when, you know, she's walking with Noonien-Singh. I can never, La'an.
Yeah, La'an.
Walking in the hallways or the passageways with her. And, you know, Number One's like, you know, I don't feel like part of the crew anymore since I'm a senior officer now. And Noonien-Singh's like, yeah, that's because you're terrifying. So, you know, it just kind of brought back a little bit of callback for me in The Cage, because like I was just saying a minute ago, number one in the cage she was subdued, but like you could see, like, I don't even know what I'm trying to say here, but
no, she was written to be intimidating.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm looking for.
Because, I mean, she even kind of like the time that Pike like kind of threw a little at her, she kind of like stared him like right back, like, say what? You know, like what? Loudmouth. Yeah.
And, we did catch a little glimpse of the computer voice in this, and I'm not going to lie, it kind of sounds like her.
Yeah, I'm going to have to pay a little more attention. There's a thing going on here that makes me wonder if number one gets taken over by something, but there's also something that makes me wonder if she's partially cybernetic, perhaps. Now I'm reaching a lot for those, but there are things happening.
What makes you say that? I didn't catch any of that cybernetic stuff.
So if you're watching, it looks like there's a fist fight between her and Leanne. And she's over Leanne's body, and the bottom of her throat is glowing red. Like there's a light in there.
She a Cylon?
Could be. Yeah, so, I don't know. I'm probably pushing too far on this one, but I am expecting something quite different to come out of this character as this character is revealed to us.
Huh, that's interesting. I didn't catch on to none of that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to pay attention to the computer voice now.
I wouldn't like bet a paycheck on it or anything, but I would definitely take a low risk bet that it's her.
Okay, so yeah. Also, I've noticed that the field jackets are back that the crew wear on away missions.
Yeah. It kind of looks like an old school bomber jacket. I don't know. I just get reminiscence of a bomber jacket.
Well, it's better than that weird wraparound thing they had in the cage.
Yeah. That
was just poorly done. All right. I think that was everything I had there. And now let's spend a little time on Vulcan.
Yeah, let's talk about Mr. Spock here.
So obviously Spock had always been the breakout character from Star Trek. And it kind of looks like they're playing it that same way. So while I'm going to say that Ethan Peck does not look like Leonard Nimoy, he looks like Spock.
Yeah, and I mean, you get the same thing from Quinto in the newer movies. Although I would say he looks a little bit more like Leonard Nimoy than Peck here does. But yeah, you're right. He looks and sounds like Spock.
Yeah, I'm sure it's no secret that Leonard Nimoy once wrote a book, I Am Not Spock, and then years later wrote a book, I Am Spock. And I am sure that reference to him simply being Spock is a reference to those books. Vulcan, the planet, looks great. I can't wait to see more of that.
Yeah, it looked like he was getting ready for that mating ritual.
Yeah, they had their lurpas out and were ready to do some fisticuffs of some kind.
He did kiss somebody.
Mm-hmm. I have to imagine that was T'Pring. Even though in the show he said they hadn't seen each other since they were children, doesn't mean he was telling the truth.
You know, at first, when I first quickly saw that, it kind of looked like Zoe Salandis, the girl who plays Uhura in the new series and Gamora and all that. It kind of looked like her, but it's not. It shows her face, full face somewhere else, and it's definitely not her. But like in profile, I was like, wow, is that
that'd be
Zoe?
Wild. And Zoe Saldana in there. Yeah, so so this makes Spock look like they're going to do some interesting stuff with him, but it shouldn't be a shock because every time they could feature him in an episode of the original series, they did, whether it was him having a third eyelid or whatever, One of the things my dad used to say is like, one of the reasons I got sick of that show is they were turning him into Superman by the end. So, but I am excited to see where it goes. I am glad they figured out a way to cut his hair where it looks better than it did in that last shot of Discovery.
I don't know. I was kind of digging the long-haired bearded Spock.
The guy who looks like he's doing the Kolinar training still.
Yeah, they should have kept him with a beard for a while.
It's hippie Spock.
Yeah.
Put him in a lot of denim. Had him sing the Bilbo Baggins song.
Oh, that's so terrible.
Yeah, it really is. People make fun of William Shatner's albums, but have you ever heard the Leonard Nimoy ones?
Just that song.
Oh, they're just as bad, if not worse. At least William Shatner knew he wasn't singing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is a Pike one, right?
Yep. That's all the way at the bottom.
There it is. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at the captain here.
Yeah, I am really excited to see his character arc in this. And actually, we got to see kind of a long-haired and bearded Pike in this clip.
We got to see like almost full cowboy Pike here.
Yeah.
Real quick here, I want to reference the shuttles that they're showing, that they look very close to the original series while still being a little bit updated, but not crazy different.
Yeah, I was noticing the same thing. Yeah, they look really good. Yeah,
I'm pretty excited they managed to pull that off. So, Chris, I had an idea for a fan comic I was going to do, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, right? It was going to be called Turtles All the Way Down. And it was about a Pike who was never really sure if he ever left Talos or not.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. But see, now it seems like they're kind of doing the same thing, but it's with his future that he sees coming. And I am 100% interested in where this is going.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much of, if any, of Talos we'll see in here.
I hope not much. I hope none at all, honestly, but I hope it's not much if it does come up.
I don't know, man. I feel like his death, or at least him seeing the accident, may prompt him to revisit Talos for some reason.
I don't know. I mean, we certainly got the sense from Discovery that he had not seen Vina since the first time he was there.
Yeah.
Okay, so he calls himself a Boy Scout. This tells me they're going to give him a completely different characterization than Kirk. Even though Kirk was a Boy Scout, people forget that and often go thinking he was a different character than what he really was, though.
Yeah, but in the couple lines of dialogue right before that, he talks about bending the rules a bit. Yeah, he's getting yelled at by Uhura for it. Not yelled at, but, she mentions it.
Yes, I am interested. Now, that particular trailer was one of the least revealing out of all of these, which makes me think there's going to be a lot of the overarching story of the season. I have to imagine it's about Pike's evolution.
Yeah, seeing his future self seems like it's going to be a big thing in the first season of the show.
Yeah, that definitely seems like it. And that reflection of his face, him seeing his burnt face in his reflection. I'm really interested in seeing what all they're going to do here.
Yeah, it's all very exciting.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, I don't think this trailer for Pike has revealed anything that we didn't already know about him, but I am curious to see what they do with that arc.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Now what we've got is the longer one, which is the trailer for the series or for the season.
Yeah, this was the latest one, dropped on April 3rd. So we're going to talk about that for a few minutes because there was some good little things in here. Yeah, right off the bat for me, this trailer, the music in it is phenomenal. Just the way the music hits in this, but all these shots of the Enterprise, especially that shot where it's hanging up in the sky. The Enterprise just looks so good.
Yeah, I've already looked to see if there's model kits out there for it, and I think Eagle Moss is the only company that's done anything with it, and that's just like a die cast.
Now, to be fair, that company does make some really good-looking models.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They make gorgeous ones, but I don't want to join a $50 a month subscription program for starships. I really don't need a scale model of Deep Space Nine.
Why not, man?
Well, I'm just not a big fan.
It's one of the best shows.
It didn't do much for me. So, if you were to scrub my Facebook timeline, you'd go back a couple years, and you would see that about 2 weeks before they finally announced the Pike series, I wrote, I don't have it in front of me, but it was something similar to, if they start a new Star Trek series starring Captain Pike, shouldn't they just call it Star Trek? Because, that's what it should be called. I have noticed that they have that piece of music at the end, which sounds like, originally it sounded more like a piece from the original series. Now they've changed it a little bit, but it's still got like an old school 60s flavor to it. I am excited to see what they do with the intro to the show. Is it going to have a voiceover? Because so far every series about an Enterprise, except the NX-01, which I don't count because Scott Bakula can't do a good voiceover, has had with the captain giving a voiceover intro. Is the music going to be reminiscent of the original series? I mean, are they going to harken back to the original series more than just visually, I guess is my question.
I hope so. I say that, but they will probably do something what Discovery does, which Discovery's intro music kind of changes periodically. And I've noticed season 2 especially was more reminiscent of TOS style. But yeah, at the end of this trailer, they do start to seem like they're going to play the original theme song, but then they change a few notes at the end of it to make it not sound like it should.
Right. It sounds like something similar being played on a theremin. See, me, I've always been a big fan, and it's probably because of Star Trek, of that mid-century modern minimalist look, that Danish, kind of look. And it looks like they've got a little bit of that going on. Chris, I'm just super excited for this show to come out. That's honestly where I'm at.
Yeah, I am too. So, I don't know. I mean, again, these trailers, man, especially this one, I felt like we had a lot more to talk about during those 30-second snippets than this. A lot of stuff's happening in this trailer.
It's hard to pick any pieces out to really comment on.
Obviously, he starts out beaming in the middle of some kind of discussion, like governmental discussion.
Looked like a debate or something, yeah.
Yeah, it's just real tough to like pull on any threads in this because so much is happening and all of it's out of context. So I have no idea what to even really comment on, except for, like I said, whoever did the music for this trailer like hit it out of the park. I thought I really like the direction of the music, and I actually hope the show kind of has hints of that too. I don't think I'd want it there all the time, but occasionally.
Yeah, well, it's much more cinematic feeling. It could be distracting if improperly used, but all music can be. I did like this sense because, like you're saying, it opens with him beaming into the wrong situation, and then towards the end, he's like, standing there talking to a guy who's like, "Oh, your presence is a philosophy." He's like, "Whoa, hey, let's talk about this. We'll find some common ground to work." Oh, never mind.
His hairstyle was a little bit different in that scene. It seemed like taller. I don't know.
I'm starting to think his hair has a life of its own, man.
It probably does.
Yeah. I've noticed that, it's got like its own Twitter fan pages now. I just kind of figured he was like Captain Peaky Blinders or something, but, But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's a lot to look at here. Like, there's that city in the clouds. Is that a reference to the original Cloud City, Talos from that episode, The Cloud Miners? Or is that just a city with clouds? There's the little lizard ducking away. Is that like a baby Gorn or something? Or is that just a baby lizard?
Oh man, if they bring Gorns back for this, it better be a guy in a suit.
It would have to be, but B, the subclause to that, they can't because they'd never seen them before. And one of the things that used to irritate me about Enterprise was they introduced the Ferengi and the Klingons and like totally out of order and not in any way that had been described before. And the Romulans, I'm like, all of these things were things you weren't supposed to see yet. And they're like, just put them in.
Yeah, it seems like writers today, though, they take a little bit more care of stuff like that. Obviously, there's going to be lots of stuff that you could point out with Discovery and whatever that kind of turns that on its head. But I feel like major stuff is usually not ignored. And if it is, they usually come up with a good reason to. I don't know.
And look, again, I've said before, if continuity is going to get in the way of the story, of a good story, then I would rather see you err on the side of good storytelling. We can always adjust our beliefs, what continuity holds later. But yeah, at the same time, I'm also a giant Star Trek nerd and I remember stupid things that I shouldn't. So,
Yeah, I could see that.
They never expected this to be a TV show that'd be on for closer to 100 years than 2,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's where I'm at. As I'm excited for this. I cannot wait to see this. I, of course, have a short trip to Risa coming up. And when I get back, that week is when the show starts.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about how we're gonna handle this. Whether we want to put Discovery on pause or keep going and just get caught up with everything during season 1. I still don't know which is the better way to do it.
Yeah, me either. I don't know what's going to be the proper way to handle it.
So, we have a few weeks now, and we have a few listeners out there. So if you have any opinions on which way we should go, let us know.
Yeah, please do. You drop by our website, strangenewtrekshow.com. And we actually there's a number of ways to contact us on there. You can get to our Facebook, our YouTube, our Twitter. You can leave a voicemail if you follow it back to our anchor.fm page. So yeah, if you have a thought on this, should we stop doing Discovery for a while we do Strange New Worlds? Or should we just keep going and then do Strange New Worlds when we get done with Discovery? Or if you got another idea, let us know. All right. Well, Chris, anything else? There was a lot to see there. At the same time, there wasn't a lot to comment on.
Yeah. That's just the way they do trailers these days, I guess, because I know a lot of even trailers for movies have been that way, sort of.
Mm-hmm. I have seen a couple things recently, photographs. I thought they would be in here, but they weren't. I saw Uhura in a different tunic that had a raised collar that was about 1.5 inches wide. I think there's going to be some time travel shenanigans coming up in Strange New Worlds. I don't know if it'll be season 1 or season 2. My money is on season 2.
Yeah, I really hope that's how we see Kirk and co.
That would seem to make more sense.
Or, I was thinking about this. That could be like they could be reliving the menagerie, like some kind of flashback scene with him.
Yeah, could be.
Maybe. I don't know.
No, look, it's wide open. They could be doing all sorts of things, So those are the trailers. We dropped the address earlier. If you got something you want to add, please do. Chris, any closing thoughts or anything?
No, man. Like you already said, I'm also super excited for this show. Everything I'm seeing looks really good. The couple little nits I might pick, I'm sure will be answered in due time. So I'm not going to sit here and worry about them too much.
No, because, we really don't have enough. I don't think there's enough here to worry about,
Nope.
I'm sure there's somebody out there making all sorts of YouTube videos complaining already, though.
Probably.